Welcome to August. What are we expecting the meta to actually be? Make sure you smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more August content. We'll be starting off here with Salamangre. Wait, August Salamangre. Yeah, that's right. The duelist pack is actually in full swing on the 11th here. So we are going to be tossing it in. Now, the reason why I want to mention Salad down here, number 10, is I honestly think that people are going to be taken back by this. When they're seeing the link for do its thing and, step through the hoops and all of this amazingness, I think that this actually has some potential. Honestly, I think that a lot of people are definitely going to be dumbfounded when they see Salad actually get the chance to do its thing here. And I might be reaching just a little bit. I mean, I might be on the top shelf here going and doing its thing. Maybe this is more of a rogue candidate out here. Who knows? But from where I'm sitting right now, I think that there's a lot of consideration to be pushed on this deck as, a solid choice that if people don't remember how to do their thing, or if Nibiru is not present in the format, Salad can actually cover a lot of ground, and that's a scary thought. Next up is Rescue Ace, the mid-range control deck of control decks. Now, once again, we're going to be in the exact same category here as Salamangre. If people don't know how to handle the matchup, then you have the biggest advantage tree in the entire world. And that's what you want to see. You want to be able to see these matchups that can do their thing. Now, once again, I'm on record to say the Rescue Ace doesn't have the best grand game in the world. Well, Robbie, they have the HQ. Yeah, the HQ is a one-of, and if anything happens to that HQ, if your opponent plays through it, spell and trap removal, it is going to be a lot harder for them to be able to get it back. And trust me when I say this, it doesn't quite, you got to do a lot of recurability here in order to put the stuff back up. Maybe it's just my Runic senses, but I think the deck is a really good mid-range control deck, but its learning curve is a lot higher than the average duelist is going to want to mess around with at this point in time. And because of, all of that extra learning, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for people to adjust. Next up is Infernobyl. This is one of the most hyped decks out of the block here, actually. People are kind of looking at everything right now, and they're... I don't know. I know that this deck is definitely a lot more hyped on the TCG side of things versus the OCG, because, we still do have Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, and let's call it what it is at this point in time. Divine Sword Phoenix Blade is an amazing card, but the question here is how much of an impact can this deck actually have on the meta? How much of a splash can it actually, matter? And that's where I'm kind of iffy at right now. It's like the deck can do a lot of things, but it seems kind of fragile in comparison to the rest of the top end. But depending on how things are going right now, I think it's going to wheedle its way in, maybe at the rogue category. But for the very early stages, I think a lot of people are going to be taken back by Infernobyl, and the deck is going to, destroy a lot of people. Next up is, of course, Branded. Like, this never really changes. Like, Branded's still sitting down here at number 7. It's moved down a little bit as, more and more of the format does kind of shift along here, but let's call it what it is. It's not like the deck is getting more support. What tools it has are all that it has left. And, it can gimmick puppet lock you. Woo! Gimmick puppet lock. Scary, right? It's not happening as much as you think. Yeah, Branded will squeak in, a top finish here and there, but with Expulsion gone, and I keep saying this, the deck continues to roll down every one of these particular sets. So do with that info what you will, but the deck to me is nowhere near the scary powerhouse that it once was. It's still at the top dinner table for now until, more power creep rolls through, but that's what we're sitting at right now. Rico, son Avalon. It's ironic to me that this deck, sitting at the top 10 at number 6, I didn't really, compared to everything else on this list, I had a hard time putting this as high as I did, but at least in the European region metagame, they tend to love this deck. Looking at the Kong's tournament's early results, this deck usually ends up with a pretty decent placement. And it was the one tournament where we had 3 of these placing. So I got to give it the very early treatment. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, this could very easily shift off with something else. But, at least in one region of the world, we're seeing this deck get massive, massive love. And, I mean, people just don't know how to play around the boards that it does. Seems to be the big old theme here, the unknown. you know, these decks that players don't know how to handle. And they're like, wow, you know, like, I can't believe that this actually, you know, got a win out here. Yeah, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have zero clue how to handle these matchups. Next up is Metagame, aka the deck with one of the craziest, highest ceilings in the format right now. And by that, I mean, like, you blow through your extra deck. I almost want to put this deck in the same category as Rico on Avalon. You go through all of these extra deck options, all of these things to create this big board. And if your opponent finds some sort of method to break your huge combo-oriented board, you're going to lose. You also have access to King Calamity to stop your opponent from being able to play the game. It's a lot more niche to see the, you know, these boards being broken. It is not 100% impossible at the end of the day. So do kind of keep that in mind as you're kind of like looking at how things are going for the general point of the meta here, because this deck's ceiling is one of the scariest that I think that people have been afraid to see. And once again, combo players take forever with some of their turns. This deck takes huge turns when it needs to. Next up is Labyrinth. Labyrinth at number 4, Robbie? Are you sure about that? Yeah, I am. At this point in time, all the little things that Labyrinth can do, even if it doesn't grind more than, you know, 2 or 3 into a top cut, the deck is still very scary. Back row decks scare people. Ooh, gimmick pup. Ooh, skill drain. Ooh, scary. Can't play the game now. Honestly, Labyrinth just gets more and more consistent, I feel like. Whether or not the deck gets more support, it feels like it just continues to get better, but maybe it's because the meta continues to swing in such sporadic movements that I don't know, it feels like people might not know how to kind of handle things at the moment. So I am going to put it at number 4. Eradicator Epidemic Virus is a crazy, fantastic card, but you know, let's call it what it is at this stage. It's just that. Next up is Kashtira. Wait, Robbie, you said Kashtira was, you know, one of the best decks in the room. Yes, it is. 1 and 2 are going to be a little bit more biased, but I'll talk about that here in a second. So Kashtira is still doing Kashtira things. They make the Arise Heart to bait you into wasting all of your resources to clean it up, and then they put 8k damage on the field and then swing through. That's the best description I can give you of Kashtira. It's not the Arise Heart that's the issue. It's the 8k damage they put on the field in the next turn and use the Arise Heart as a spot removal to clean up whatever you were left with. And that's a pretty big issue at the end of the day. I want to be a little bit more optimistic here, and I want to be like, yeah, maybe Kashtira is a little bit higher. But with how everything else is kind of going, the other decks in the room, while you know, Kashtira does have a good matchup against them, it's everything else that's kind of bullying Kashtira at the moment that has been detouring it slightly, if you know what I mean. Next up is Purely. The ability to set Leap from the deck. I gotta clap for it, Konami. I gotta give it to you. You did it. You managed to make the deck even more consistent. Now, after the hits that the TCG went through, the deck was said to kind of go off into the sunset, and it disappeared. The thing that we're actually kind of seeing here is the deck kind of went through a little bit of a renaissance. That new Exceed actually did matter all that much. It gives the deck the extra big push to be able to set the Leap and be able to, actually you can play Shirley too with it, but it did jump up the consistency of the deck a lot. Alright, I love the fact that, you know, one particular card matters all that much in the grand scheme of things. So Purely coming in at probably one of the better decks in the room for sure. And if you are really expecting anything different, okay, now I'm going to say that probably the best deck in the room feels like Runic for Higher Sprite. Now, in all actuality, is it? Well, when this deck goes, it is scary. This deck gets like a draw like 6 combo, a draw 9 combo, Fogo Dagger splitting apart. Every time I've seen this deck do its thing and not getting shifted, it's just like, this deck is in an entirely another realm of things. But if it ever has success, it's just 1 or 2 variants. It never has a huge seeded top cut, which leads me to believe that you have to be an extremely good player in order to play this. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but that does cripple other players from wanting to play the deck. But Runic for Higher Sprite is just... If you haven't seen this deck be played, you should check it out. The high-end points of it doing its thing are crazy. So, what do you think about the best decks in the format? Please leave a comment down below what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.